You know, we live in this world today that's packed with technology, development, everything at our fingertips. But have you ever stopped to think where it all started? Because the truth is, this journey began millions of years ago. Back then, there were no cities, no houses, no technology whatsoever. Just dense forests, stretching as far as the eye could see, and dangerous animals lurking behind every tree. Our ancestors? They had one single purpose in life. Somehow, anyhow, just stay alive. Life for early humans was like something straight out of an adventure movie. Except there was no director to yell cut, no stunt double to take the fall. Every single day brought a new struggle. Every night brought a new fear. You have to understand at that time, there wasn't much difference between humans and animals. Both depended completely on nature for survival. Both were part of the food chain, and honestly, humans were not at the top. But one thing was already setting humans apart. One thing that would eventually change. Everything. Intelligence, not the bookish kind, not the kind you measure with tests, but raw, practical, survive or die intelligence. This was the quality that separated humans from all other creatures and slowly, very slowly, pushed them towards something we now call civilization. Now, let me paint you a picture. Imagine waking up not to an alarm clock, but to the sound of something large moving through the bushes. Imagine your morning routine isn't checking your phone. It's checking which direction the wind is, blowing so you don't walk into a predator's territory. This was daily life. And yet somehow, these creatures who were smaller, slower, and weaker than most animals around them managed to not just survive, but eventually thrive. Slowly, gradually, they learned to make fire. And I don't mean they invented it. Fire was already there, in lightning strikes, in volcanic eruptions. They learned to control it, to keep it, to carry it. They started crafting tools, not because some genius had a bright idea, but because necessity forced their hands. They began hunting, which sounds simple until you realize they had no claws, no fangs, no speed. They lived in caves, yes, but not because caves were comfortable. Have you ever spent a night in a cave? Damp, dark, echoing with sounds you can't identify. They ate fruits from trees, but first they had to figure out which ones wouldn't kill them. And they spent their days and nights running from wild animals, constantly trying to save their own lives. The biggest struggle for early humans was food. It sounds basic, but think about it, you can't store food in a cave for long. You can't order delivery. You can't even know for sure where your next meal is coming from. In the beginning, most early humans spent their time living in trees. Sounds safe, right? Until you realize that trees have their own problems. Lightning loves tall objects. Heavy branches break. Some animals climb better than humans ever could. Every single one of them would wander through forests, all day long just to find something to eat. Initially, they survived by roaming through jungles, eating roots, tubers, fruits, and whatever flowers they could find. But this wasn't always safe because forests contain many poisonous fruits as well. Avoiding these was absolutely necessary, and the only way to learn was watching which animals ate what, or tragically, watching someone in your group get sick after trying something new. Gradually, they began to realize something important. Meat provided more nutrition. It kept the stomach full for longer periods. And that's exactly where the journey of hunting began. But here's the thing, early humans were not natural hunters. They couldn't outrun a deer. They couldn't overpower a wild boar. They had to learn patience, strategy, cooperation. They had to become the brainiest animal in the forest, because they certainly weren't the brawniest. As time passed, they started climbing down from trees. The reason was simple, lightning, and heavy. Rains in the sky made them feel unsafe up there. But then came the moment when they finally left the trees completely and started taking shelter in caves. Many early humans searched for hills and made their homes inside caves there. Evidence of this still exists today at numerous places around the world. If you ever visit places like Lascaux in France or Bhimbetka in India, you're literally walking through someone's ancient living room. The walls still carry their art, their stories, their attempts to make sense of a world that was constantly trying to kill them. In their early days, early humans lived just like wild animals. Like other creatures, they completely depended on nature. Meaning, whatever they found, they simply ate it. Early humans were terrified of wild animals. Bad weather, storms, harsh sunlight, all of this made their lives extremely difficult. Their fear was natural because they possessed no weapons. Nothing they could imagine facing a wild buffalo with nothing but your bare hands. That's not bravery. That's suicide. So early humans started making tools from stones and wood. This allowed them to hunt smaller animals. This was their first major victory because now they had a new source of food. Slowly, they began using stones for digging and hunting. For animals with tough hides and for cutting wood, they used sharp-edged stones. The first tool they created was the hand axe. This was a massive achievement for early humans. Just like this, gradually they started making many more tools using stones. This period of civilization became known as the Stone Age, and it lasted a very long time, about 2.5 million years. To put that in perspective, everything we've built since the pyramids, the internet, space travel, all of that fits into the last few thousand years. The Stone Age was humanity's longest chapter by far. Perhaps today we consider fire something ordinary, something we use daily without thinking. You flip a switch, turn a knob, and there it is. But for our ancestors, fire was nothing less than a miracle. In forests, when lightning struck, trees would catch fire. In the beginning, early humans were terrified of this. They would often set forests on fire themselves accidentally, but they didn't really understand what this thing was. They considered fire the most dangerous animal because all forest creatures, whether lions or elephants, feared it. Think about that. The one thing that scared everything else became humanity's greatest ally. One day, early humans noticed something crucial. Fire gets extinguished when it comes into contact with water. After this observation, they started running toward rivers and ponds to escape from fire. Eventually, they learned the technique of creating fire by rubbing stones together. This was a revolutionary turning point that completely transformed their lives. It didn't happen overnight. Countless failed attempts, countless burned fingers, countless moments of frustration. But someone, somewhere, kept trying. Having fire made them feel much more secure. They also started cooking meat using fire. Because now humans were getting tasty food every single day. Their brains were developing significantly. Cooked food is easier to digest, which means more energy for brain development. Scientists believe this is one reason human brains grew larger over time. But slowly, they understood even more benefits. Fire could provide warmth. It could cook hunted meat. It could protect them from dangerous animals. Early humans now began working even at night, carrying burning wooden torches. The darkness, which had been their enemy since forever, was slowly becoming something they could push back against. In the early life of early humans, there was no organized language. No words existed. No grammar existed. Yet they still needed to tell their group members where food was found, where danger lurked, or when to go hunting. For this, they used gestures and sounds. Initially, early humans used hand movements and facial expressions. Gradually, they began utilizing sounds. When danger approached, they would scream loudly. When they found food, they made different kinds of sounds. Imagine the frustration. You see a honey tree, but you can't say honey tree. You have to point, grunt, make eating motions, and hope someone understands before a bear shows up. As groups grew larger, the need for organized language became felt. Slowly, they developed ways to communicate by combining certain sounds and signals. This is where language was born. And this development helped push forward all of human civilization. Because once you can share complex ideas, you can teach, you can remember things that happened before you were born. Language is what makes culture possible. Without it, every generation starts from zero. With it, knowledge accumulates, builds, compounds. Around 2 million years ago, some early humans left their homeland and began moving toward North Africa, Europe, and Asia. This was necessary because surviving in the icy forests of northern Europe and the hot, dense jungles of Indonesia required different kinds of adaptation. So human populations started adapting themselves according to geographical conditions. In this process, various human species developed, and scientists gave each one Latin names. Homo erectus emerged around 1.9 million years ago, being the first to control fire and create more complex tools. These were the pioneers, the ones who figured out that standing up straight isn't just about seeing further. It's about carrying things, about endurance running, about freeing your hands to do other tasks while you move. Then came Neanderthals. who actually had larger brains than modern humans and survived in harsh European ice ages for hundreds of thousands of years. They buried their dead, cared for their injured, and possibly even created early forms of art. They weren't the brutish cavemen of popular imagination. They were survivors in conditions that would kill most of us within days. Another species, Homo floresiensis, nicknamed the Hobbit, stood only about 3 feet tall and lived on an Indonesian island until fairly recently, around 50,000 years ago. Imagine that, a completely different human species, small enough to ride a large dog, surviving until your very distant ancestors were already exploring the world. As time passed, revolutionary changes came to human civilization and culture, completely transforming their lifestyle in the future. But these changes didn't feel revolutionary at the time. They felt like small adjustments, tiny improvements, slight advantages that accumulated over thousands of years. In the early period, all early humans lived alone or in very small family units. But then gradually, they started living in groups with their families. Living in groups helped them with security and gathering food. There's safety in numbers, but there's also shared knowledge. If one person finds a good fruit tree, everyone benefits. They took shelter in trees and caves, remaining dependent on natural resources. Slowly, early humans began adopting new methods to escape difficult situations. Now they didn't fear natural disasters and wild animals as much. Not because the dangers decreased, but because they got better at handling them. Though they still didn't wear clothes. But with time, they learned to wear animal skins like clothing. This helped them protect themselves from cold and other weather effects. Some early humans left hilly areas and started settling in plains. But here, they had no permanent homes to live in. Their lives were still full of struggles, and they continued living in trees. However, gradually, they learned to build houses from the wood of these same trees. As time went by, early humans mastered the art of house building. It wasn't architecture in any modern sense, but it was shelter, protection from elements, from animals, from the unknown dangers of night. As the number of these houses increased, small villages and settlements began forming. Now all early humans started living together. This meant they no longer had food problems, at least not as acutely. Nor did they fear wild animals as constantly. During winter seasons, they lived comfortably in their homes with fire burning. Many early humans settled near rivers, making water availability easier for them. Rivers meant fish, meant travel routes, meant fertile land when they eventually started farming. The greatest strength of early humans was fire and weapons made from wood. Fire not only saved them from cold, but also helped in cooking food and protecting against wild animals. Weapons made from wood and stone helped them hunt and defend themselves. Now they had water for drinking, food for eating, homes for living, and weapons for hunting. These facilities made their lives much simpler and safer compared to before. Not safe by our standards, but safer than being alone in a forest with nothing. By now, early humans had learned hunting, making fire, building homes, and communicating. But real development happened when they started agriculture. Previously, they completely depended on nature for food. But then they observed something. When seeds fell into soil, new plants grew from them. This was a new discovery that helped them adopt a settled lifestyle. Now they didn't need to wander searching for food every day. Imagine the freedom, the relief, the sense of control over your own life. They started growing crops in fields and began domesticating animals. This was the time when villages and settlements were born, and later, these very places laid the foundation for cities and great civilizations. The shift from hunting-gathering to farming, known as the Neolithic Revolution, occurred roughly 12,000 years ago in different parts of the world. This change was so massive that human population exploded, from maybe a few million to billions today. Agriculture meant surplus. Surplus meant specialization. Specialization meant trade. Trade meant cities. Cities meant civilization. One discovery, endless consequences. The journey from early human to modern human took millions of years to complete. This story that began with struggle has now reached the era of science and technology. But if our ancestors hadn't learned all this, perhaps we wouldn't be here today. Every single skill, every single discovery, every single adaptation, it all built on what came before. So next time when you use any facility, any convenience, definitely remember this. How much effort and struggle our ancestors put in to achieve this. Every single thing we take for granted today exists because someone, millions of years ago, figured out how to rub two stones together, how to plant a seed, how to build a shelter, how to work together. The phone in your pocket, the roof over your head, the food in your fridge, all of it traces back to someone standing in a forest, cold and scared, deciding to try something new one more time. But have you ever thought, why and how did our ancestors move from eating meat to starting vegetarian food? If you want to know this too, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the video appearing in front of you. I'll meet you again with another interesting video like this. Until then, thank you.